Friends, I ask that if you're able to do so, please rise. We're going to begin on page 103 with Birchot HaShachar. Please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan l'sekvivina להבחין בין יום ובין לילה. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שעשני בצלמו.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שעשני בן חורי.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שעשני ישראל.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam פוקח עברים.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam מלביש ערומים. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rokah haaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechem et tzedei gaver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שעשה לי קוטור כי. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam osir Yisrael bigvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael b'tifara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten laef koach.
Please be seated.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam v'shenem. Hutenenu hayom uv'chol yom lechein ul hesed rachamim beinecha uvenei koroenu v'tzigmul hasadim tovim. Baruch atah Adonai gomel chasadim tovim le'amo Yisrael. Le'olam yireh l'shematim. Ribon kolam. Avanam v'ritecha b'nei Avraham. Ashreinu matav chelkeinu umanayim goraleinu mafa Yerushateinu. Ashreinu she'anaknu mashkimim umarivim erev avoker ve'omrim b'mayim bechol yom Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Atah shel no nevra ha'olam atah. Kadesh et shimcha makdishei shemecha vekadesh et shimcha lomecha uvishuatacha tarim tagbi ekranenu baruch atah Adonai mekadesh et shimcha barabim.
Amen.
Beginning on page 107, we have an opportunity to study a passage of Torah together. Afterwards, we'll say Kaddish de Rabbanan.
Shimti ki kadosh Yehi ratzon melefanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu shetitein chelkeinu b'toratecha v'nimit hamidav shel Aharon HaKohen ohev shalom rodef shalom ohev riyotum korvan laTorah.
Kaddish de Rabbanan is on page 111. Mourners and those observing a yort site, please rise.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Ve'almad divra kirutei ve'amlik malchutei v'chayechon uvyamechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kari ve'imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'alam olalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yit hadar, v'yit aleh, v'yit halal, shemei kudusha barichu. Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Al Yisrael ve'al Rabbanan, ve'al Talmidechon, ve'al kol Talmidechon, ve'al kol man da'askim be'oraita, di ve'atra hadain v'di b'kol atar v'atar, yehei lechon uchon shlama rabba, Hina v'chizda v'rachamin, v'chayin arichin uzona revicha, u'forkana mikodam avuhon devishmaya v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim tovim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Osei shalom imromav, u'barachamav ya'asei shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Hayomim Shabbat Kodesh.
We're on page 112.
Le'asor v'aleinu ve'aleinu. Hodjivenu v'mishevad shenim ranim yihu lehagid ki ashar Adonai suriva lo avlatabo.
Page 120.
Mizmor asher hanukat habayit David armim chaglatani v'lo zamru l'nekasi David kodsho ki ragabach v'ozono. Remember it's on. Fakta mispirun mekoli patakta saki v'dezreni simcha limani zgavud v'loidom Adonai Elohai le'olam odecha.
The Mourner's Kaddish is on page 121. Once again, mourners and those observing a yortzeit, please rise.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah
Amen.
be'alma divra kirute ve'amlich malchute b'chayechon uvyamechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael Ba'agala uvizman kari ve'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevarach le'olam olalmei almaya. Yitbarak v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei kudusha barichu. Le'elam min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran be'alma ve'imru amen. Yehi shlama Rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Osei shalom imromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen.
I ask that we all please rise on page 122, Pesukah de Zimra.
Baruch she'amar ve'haya ha'olam Baruch hu Baruch Osei Bereshit Baruch hu ve'osei Baruch Tzachayim v'ha'atz Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam ha'el ha'av v'rachamam v'refi ha'mo mishpat. Yachid kei ha'olamim el mushabakam v'de'ad shemo hagadol. Baruch atah Adonai melech mehulal b'tishbachot.
Please be seated, 123.
Hodu la'Adonai ki mishmor shiru l'Adonai Zera Yisrael avdo b'nei Yaakov v'hirav hu Adonai Eloheinu b'kol mitzvotav zikru. Ki kol Elohei ha'amim elinim v'Adonai shamayim asa. Hod v'lefanav Yismechu hashamayim v'tagel ha'aretz v'malach. V'nekiyotu v'lam hazdovim ha'shim yishmeh. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtakavu l'hakodsho ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu v'hu rachum yakaper v'lo yashchit v'hirbal ha'shiv v'pol v'lo l'to atzamini zechor rachamecha Adonai hatzadecha. Adonai tzivot ashreinu moteach bach Adonai Hoshia HaMelech Yanenu V'yom Korenu Hoshia et Amecha Uvarech et Nachalatecha Urem, 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 Urem V'nasem Ad HaOlam Hoshia et Amecha Uvarech et Nachalatecha Urem, 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 Urem V'nasem Ad HaOlam Nafshenu Hiktala Adonai Hashem Shechach Lo Hashem Shadonai Elohav ואני בחסדך בדרכתי אגל בישועתך. Ashira la Adonai ki gamal Allah.
I ask that we please rise. We continue together on page 132.
Hodu la Adonai ki tov ki leolam chasdo. Hodu leElohei haElohim ki leolam hasdo. Hodu la Adonai Adonim ki leolam hasdo. Leosei orim gedolim ki leolam hasdo. Et hashemesh lememshelet bayom ki leolam hasdo. Et hayareach v'kochavim lememshelo balayla. Lemolicha mo bamidbar ki leolam hasdo. Lemakei melachim gedolim ki leolam hasdo. Vayaharog melachim adinim ki leolam hasdo. V'natar artzam lachala ki leolam hasdo. Nachala leYisrael avdo ki leolam hasdo. Nay 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 ki leolam hasdo. Noten lechem lechol basar ki leolam hasdo. Hodu le'el hashamayim ki leolam hasdo. Nay 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 ki leolam hasdo.
Please be seated. Ashrei is on page 136.
Ashrei yoshvei beitecha od yanelucha sela. Ashrei shachakalo ashrei ham shadonai Elohav tehila leDavid. Haromim chai Elohai hamelech rosh kamelam ve'ebecholim uvrechecha Zecher atuv chaya biyuvizika Savidu Hucha kevod Poteki Tehillat Adonai deber pi vivarech basar Shem kodsho le'olam va'ed V'anachnu nevarech ya me'ata ve'ad olam Hallelujah.
Page 141.
Hallelujah, 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 El Bekodsho, hallelujah, Berkiyahuzo, hallelujah, Vigvurotav, hallelujah, Kurav Kudlo, hallelujah, 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 B'teka shofar, hallelujah, B'neve v'chinor, hallelujah, B'tofu machol, hallelujah, B'menim ve'yugav, hallelujah, 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 B'tziltzalei shama, hallelujah, B'tziltzalei truah, hallelujah, B'tziltzalei shama, hallelujah, B'tziltzalei truah, hallelujah, 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 kol anshema tehalleluya, hallelujah, kol anshema tehalleluya, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen. Baruch Adonai Sheken Yerushalayim, hallelujah. Baruch Adonai Elohim Elohei Yisrael, osei nifla'o levado. Baruch Shem kivdo le'olam, v'yimalei kivdo et kol haaretz, amen ve'amen. Vayavarik David
We're on page 142.
Atahu Adonai ha-Elohim asher b'chartam b'Avraham be'yotzei Tomir Kasdim v'tata shemo Avraham u'atata levavon eman lefanecha v'charoti meroti te'eretz v'hayam b'kata lifnehem v'yavaru b'tok b'basha ואת רודפיהם השארת במשולות כמו אבן במים עזים ויושע אדוני ביום ההוא את ישראל ממצרים וירא ישראל ממצרים ושפת הים וירא ישראל את היד הגדולה אשר עשה אדוני במצרים וירא את אדוני ויאמינו באדוני ובמשה עבדו אז יושב משה ובני ישראל את השירה הזו לאדוני ואמרו לאמור השירה לאדוני כי גאה סוס ורוכבו רמה וים עוזי וזמרדיה ויהי לי לישועה 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 זה אלינו אנחנו אליכם ימין קרן בכוח ימין קרן יבדיש לנו Adonai imloch leolam vaed, Adonai imloch leolam vaed. V'tikach Miriam. Ki la'Adonai hamluch hamashab goyim, v'halamoshim bartonish purei sav, v'haytal Adonai hamlucha, v'haya Adonai lemelech hakol haaretz, b'yom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo.
Please be seated. We're on page 145.
Nine 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 nishmat kol chai tevarech et shimcha Adonai Eloheinu Baruch HaKol Basar Television. Mimi Stramgo Tanana Eloheinu Beit Nehalelcha unjebechacha unfa'ercha unreket shem kodshecha kamor leDavid barchin nafshi et Adonai v'kol koravai et shem kodsho ha'ebtatu moruzecha agado b'kvod shemecha hagibor lenetzach menorah benorotecha ha'melech ha'yoshev Al kiseram venisa
147.
Befi yesharim titala uvdivrei tzadikim תתברך, תתברך, שוכנן מרום וקדוש שמו, שוכנן מרום וקדוש שמו, ובלשון חסידים תדרומם, תדרומם, ובקרב קדושים תתקדש, תתקדש, שוכנן מרום וקדוש שמו, שוכנן מרום וקדוש שמו, ובמחלות רבבות עמך בית ישראל, ברינה יתפאר שמך בכל דור ודור, שוכנן מרום וקדוש שמו, שוכנן מרום וקדוש שמו, שכן כל ברכך וצורים לפניך אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, להודות, להלל, לשבח, לפעל, לרומם, להדר, לברך, לעלה ולקלס, על כל דברי שירו ותשבחו דוד בן ישי עבדך משיחך, ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו. ברכות והודאות מעתה ועד עולם, ברוך אתה אדוני, אל מלך גדול ותשבחות, אל ההודאות אדון הנפלאות, הבוקר בשירי זמרה, מלך אל חיי העולמים.
Please rise on 148 for Hatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה קירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון ובימיכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר וירם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה, בריחו לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמא ואמרו
Please be seated. We're on page 150.
הן כרכך ואין זרועתך, אפס ביתך ומדומה לך. הן כרכך אדוני אלוהינו בעולם הזה, ואין זרעך מלכנו לחיי העולם הבא. אפס ביתך גואלנו לימות המשיח, ואין דומה לך מושיענו לתחיית המתים. El Adonai kol hamasim baruch umvorach befi kol neshama kolo v'tuvo malei olam da'at u'tvuna sovavim oto Hamid Kael Chayot HaKodesh V'nera bekavod al merkava Zechuru mishor lifnei chiso Chesed v'rachamim lifnei kevodo Tovim me'orot shebara Elokeinu Yitzaram b'da'at Bavina uvaskel koach ugvura Natan bachem liot moshlim bekerev tevel Meleim ziv u'mafikim noga Na'e zivam bechol ha'olam Sumechim betzeitam betsasim bevoam Osim be'em ha'retzon konam Pe'er v'chavod nonim lishmot holav arina Lezecher malchuto kara l'shemesh Vayizrach hora v'chitkin tzurat halvana Shevach nonim lo kol tzivam aram Tiferet u'gedula Seraphim ve'ofanim ve'chayot ha'kodesh לאל אשר שבע בכל המעשים ביום השביעי עלה לישב בכיסא כבודו. תתברך מושיענו על שבח מעשה ידיך ועל מרור שעשית יפרוך הסלע. תתברך צורנו מלכנו וגואלנו מורי קדושים Yishtabach Shemcha La'ad Malkeinu Yoter Shatim.
We're on page 153.
Kulam ahuvim, kulam berorim, kulam giborim, vechulam osim be'emaretzon konam, vechulam potkim epiam dushav Torah, b'shira v'zimram varachim u'shabachim, u'farim u'maritzim u'makdishim u'mamlichim. את שם האל המלך הגדול, הגיבור והנורא הקדוש הוא. וכולם מקבלים עליכם עול מלכות שמיים זה מזה, ונותנים רשות זה לזה, להקדיש את מנחת רוח, בשפה ברורה מן הקדושה, כולם כאחד עונים ואומרים ביראה. Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, Melo kol haaretz kevodo, ve'ofanim ve'chayot hakodesh, berash gadol minasim leumat serafim, leumatam mishabchim ve'omrim, Baruch kevod Adonai mimkomo, la'el baruch nimo itenu lemelech המחדש בטובו בכל יום תאמין מעשה בראשית כאמור לעושי הורים גדולים כי לעולם חסדו אור חדש על ציון תאיר ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאורות
154.
אהבה רבה אהבתנו, אדוני אלוהינו, חמלה גדולה ויתרה אמרת עלינו. אבינו מלכנו, בעבור אבותינו, שבטחו בך, אבינו מלכנו. ותלמדם חוקי חיים, כן תכוננו ולמדנו, אבינו האב הרחמן, המרחם רחם עלינו, ותן בליבנו להבין ולהשכיל לשמוע, ללמוד וללמד, לשמוע ולעשות. ולקיים את כל דברי תלמוד תורתך באהבה, והאר עינינו בתורתך, ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך, ויחד לבבינו לאהבה וליראה את שמך, ולא נבוש לעולם ועד, ולא נבוש לעולם ועד, לעולם ועד, כי בשם קודשך הגדול והנורא בטחנו, נגילה ונשמחה, נגילה ונשמחה בישועתך. והביאנו לשלום מארבע כנפות הארץ, ותוליכנו קוממיות, קוממיות לארצנו. כי אל פועל ישועות אתה, ובאנו וגרת מכל עם ולשון, וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול, סלע באמת. להודות לך ולייחדך באהבה, ברוך אתה אדוני הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך. ועם שמות ושמתם את דברייך. ויאמר שלאמור דבר בני ישראל. קדושים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר אדוני אלוהיכם אמת ויציב ונקודש.
157.
לדור ודור הוא קיים ושמו קיים, וכיסו נכון ומלכותו ואמונתו לעד קיים רב חיים. זרע לישראל אמת שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, מלכנו מלך אבותינו, גואלנו גואל אבותינו, יוצרנו תשועתנו פונים מצילנו מעולם שמך. אין אלוהים זולתך, עזרת אבותינו אתה הוא מעולם. מגן שום דור ודור אמת אתה הוא מצרים גאולתנו זאת שלו אהובים אל תהילות ליל עליון ברוך ומבורך, משה ומרים ובני ישראל הכנו שירה בשמחה רבה, ואמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא. שירה חדשה שיבחו גאולים לשמך שפת הים, יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
Please rise.
צור ישראל קומה בעז Yisrael, uvdechenu mecha Yehuda veYisrael. Go aleinu Adonai tzevahot Shema, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael.
The Shabbat morning Amidah begins on page 159.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei HaKol, v'Zocher Chazdei Avot, U'Mevi Goel Livnei V'nechem L'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Ufoked Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham Ufoked Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayim Eitim Atah, Rav Lehoshia, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayim Eitim Berachamim Rabim, Someg Noflim Verofeh Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Nishenei Afar, Micha Mocha Baal Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Meimit Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua V'ne'emanat al Hachayot Meitim, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye HaMeitim. Nekadesh et Shimcha ba'olam, Keshem shemakdishim oto b'shmei marom, Kakatuv al yad neviecha, V'kara ze el ze ve'amar, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, Melo kol haaretz kevodao. Az bekol Rash Gadol Adir v'chazak mashmim kol Minasim leumat serafim leumata Baruch yomeru Baruch kevod Adonai mimkomo. Mimkom chamakenu tofia, v'timloch aleinu kimechakim anachnu lach. Matai timloch b'tzion, matai timloch b'tzion. B'karov be'amenu, b'karov be'amenu, le'olam va'et tishkon. Titkadal v'titkadash, B'tok Yerushalayim ircha, Ledor v'ador u'lenetzach netzakim, Ve'einenu tir eina malchutecha, Karavar ha'amor b'shirei uzecha, Al yedei David Mashiach tzidkecha, Yimloch Adonai le'olam, Elohai Tzion, Ledor vador, Hallelujah, Ledor vador nagigod lecha, Ulenetzach netzachim kedushatcha nakdish, V'shivchacha Eloheinu mipinu mush le'olam va'ed, Ki amelech gadol v'kadosh atah, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
We continue praying the Amidah silently. Please use the words of the Siddur or the private meditations of your heart. those of you still praying your Amidah, please continue to do so. The rest of us may be seated. We'll continue on page 167 with Kaddish Shalem.
יקרא ויגרש שמי רבה, ועמד יברא קידוצי וימלך מלכותי בחיי חוני ומחוני וחיי רחוב ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ומרו.
אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך.
להעלם עולל מעל מיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ומנסה ויתהדר ויתעלה ויצלח שמי קדושה.
ברכו.
ולעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן תתקבל צלות ההון והות לכל ישראל קודמה והון ושמיה ואמרו אמן יהי שלום אמן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן עושה שלום
במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל
ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו Amen.
At this time, I would like to call upon Oscar Jr. and Anna to please come up to the bima to present Olivia with her talit.
Amen.
Let us please all rise. We're going to join Olivia and her family in the Shechayan.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
We please remain standing as we turn to page 168 for the service for taking out the Torah.
שבתך בכל דור ודור. אדוני מלך, אדוני מלך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. על הרחמים היטיב ברצונך את ציון. תבנה חומות ירושלים, תבנה
Kinsoa ha'aron v'yomer Moshe.
Kuma Adonai, ve'afutzu oivecha, ve'anusu misanecha, mipanecha. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, ki mitzion tetzei Torah, u'devar Adonai mirushalayim, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, le'amo Yisrael, b'kedushato.
Bari shemei demare alma.
Ve'anaraches, ve'lish ve'kadisha, kadisha yakira, ana emar tushbechan, yehet ra'ava kodama, ve'tiftach libi be'oraita, ve'tashli mishali be'libi, ve'livat ho'ama Yisrael, ve'tavu echayim ve'lishlam. Amen.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh.
והנצח וההוד,
כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, כי כל בשמיים ובארץ.
לך אדוני הממלכה והעמית נעשה לכל לראש. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו לאדום רגליו קדוש הוא. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו כי קדוש כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו. רוממו
רוממו,
רוממו
רוממו,
אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו והשתחוו לאדום רגליו קדוש הוא. רוממו
רוממו,
רוממו
רוממו,
אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו והשתחוו להר קודשו כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו.
Let us please be seated. הברח אמרכם עושים מזכור בתיתני ויצא נפשותינו מן השעות הרעות ויגר ויצר הרע מן הנשואים ויכון אותנו לפליטת עולמים דממה למשאלותינו במידה טובה ישועה ורחמים.
Shabbat Shalom. This Shabbat we read Parashat Behar Behukatai. Parashat Behar is about the laws of the sabbatical year and the Jubilee year. People are told for 6 years that they must sow their fields and prune their vineyards. During the 7th year, the land should be given a complete rest or a Sabbath. Every 50th year is a Jubilee year in which the vineyards and land shouldn't be worked on, and liberty should be granted to all the enslaved Israelites during the 49 years before. The Jubilee year also shows the return of any properties bought during the previous 49 years to the original owner families. Parashat Behukatai is about God's promises to the people. If they follow all the commandments faithfully, they'd be promised peace, security, and abundant crops. If they disobey the commandments, misery, suffering, and ruin would come. There are also brief discussions about the payment of vows and gifts made to the sanctuary. These two Torah portions are Parashiot Mehuvarot, or joint Torah portions. Once in a while, we have to read a couple of portions together because there are 52 weeks in the year, and we have 56 Torah portions. We have 56 Torah portions because when we have a leap year in the Jewish calendar, we end up with a whole new month, and then we use up all the 56 portions. Like in every Torah portion, we have some prominent verses that stand out. This week we read, "You shall proclaim liberty throughout the land and to all its inhabitants." Does this verse sound familiar? The verse was engraved on the Liberty Bell. It's important that it was taken from the Torah because it carries on the devotion of the Jewish people and our dedication to freedom. Our founding fathers sought inspiration in the Bible, and this verse really spoke to them as something universal. Another important concept that we read about this week is the sabbatical year. Rashi, a medieval commentator of the Torah, and perhaps one of our most learned sages, suggests that the reason for the sabbatical year was to give the land time to rest, just as the Sabbath allows a human to find renewal through rest. Parashat Behukatai speaks clearly and loudly about our obligation to help the poor in our midst. Rav Asai, who lived in the 6th century of the Common Era and was the editor of the Talmud, says that those who give even a purita, small amount, will feel fulfilled in helping others. It's important to help people because we need to treat others the way we want to be treated. For me, this makes a lot of sense because I've experienced giving to people in need. I felt fulfilled and happy when I did a good deed. At this time, the rabbis greatly disagreed on which was the best way to helping someone in need. Many had different opinions, visiting the sick, teaching us to bury the poor with dignity and honor. Whichever way we choose to help, it is important that we do it. Maimonides, the Rambam, was one of the greatest Jewish scholars of all time. He lived in Spain. He was a philosopher who collected all the Jewish oral laws. One of the things he did was to compile a list with the order of giving and different levels in which one gets engaged in helping others. The order of the list is very important. It goes from the casual giving of charity to actually helping people learn how to fend for themselves. He was a famous thinker who said, instead of giving a man a fish, teach him how to fish. I agree with the order of his list because it demonstrates that. The more you want to give and the more you want to do, the closer you are to God. He came up with this list by believing that tzedakah was like a ladder. Each step you climb brings you closer to God. The word tzedakah comes from tzedek, which means justice. We as Jews believe that by helping others, we are bringing divine justice to the world. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat
Shalom.
Shalom. Okay. ויעזור ויוגן ויושיע לחוכסים בו ונאמר אמן. הכל עלול אלוקינו כבוד לתורה. יעמדו אשר בן אשר וחנה אשר את בן אברהם ראשון. ברוך שנתן תורה מלא עמו ישראל בקדושתו. ואתם הדבקים באדוני אלוהיכם חיים כולכם חיום.
Our Torah reading this morning begins toward the end of the portion of Bahar, top of page 744.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamavorach.
Baruch Adonai Barach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamavorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. V'chiyamuch achicha imach v'nimkar lach. Lo ta'avod bo avodat aved. Kizachir kitoshav ye'imach ad shnat hayovel yavod imach. V'yatza me'imach huvanav imo. V'shavel mishpachto v'elchuzad avotav yashuv. Ki avadaihem asher hotzeti otam eretz Mitzrayim. Lo yimachru b'mkeret aved. Lo tirdevo b'farach v'areta me'elohecha.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chaye olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Our second reading begins in the middle of page 744, verse number 44.
Tamod Sheni.
Baruch Haramorach Lolam Vaed. Amen.
Amen. V'avdecha v'amadcha asher yiyu lach me'eta goyim asher svivotechem mehem tiknu eved v'yama v'gam ibnei atoshavim hagarim achem mehem tiknu u'bimishpachtam asher imachem asher holidu bi'artzechem v'hayu lachem la'achuzah v'itnachaltem otam livnechem acharechem la'reshet achuzah li'olam bahem ta'avodu uva'achechem b'nei Yisrael ish bi'achiv lo tirdevo b'farech.
Amen.
Our third reading begins at the bottom of page 744, verse number 47.
Yamdu Raphael ben Asher v'Hana Amala bat Avraham Shlishi.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvarak.
Baruch Haramorach Lolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarak le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher v'karbanu mikol hamid v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. V'chitasig yad ger v'toshav imach umach achicha imo v'nimkar l'ger toshav imach u'le'ker mishpachat ger acharei nimkar geula tielo echad mechav yigalenu o dodo o ven dodo yigalenu o misher b'saro mi mishpachto yigalenu Ohi siga yadav nigal v'chish v'nigal v'lishavim konehu mishnat himachro lo ad shenat hayovel v'haya kesef mim karob mispar shanim kimei sachir yeh imo im od rabot bashanim lefihen yashiv geulato mikesef miknato ve'im me'at nishar bashanim ad shenat hayovel v'lishav lo Kifi shanav yashiv geulato, kischir shanav shana imo. Lo yerdenu beferech le'enecha, ve'im lo yel be'elev yetza bishnat hayovel, huvanav imo.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam notah betocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen.
Yamod Adam ben Asher Revi'i.
We are now at the bottom of page 745, and this reading will bring us to the conclusion of our first portion of the morning, the portion of Bahar. Bottom of page 745.
Baruch et Adonai Hambarah.
Baruch Hanamurach L'olam Va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Hambarach L'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Kili b'nei Yisrael avadim avadaihem asher utzeiti otam eretz Mitzrayim ani Adonai Elohechem lo tasu lachem elilim ufesel matzeva lo takimu lachem be'even maskit lo titnu bi'artzchem lishtachavot aleha ki ani Adonai Elohechem et shabtotai tishmoru mikdashi tira'u ani Adonai.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam notah b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Ta'amod Carmela bat Asher Chamishi.
We now enter our second portion of the morning, the portion of Bechukotai, which is also the last portion in the book of Leviticus. We're on top of page 747.
Baruch et Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Im bechukotai telechu v'et mitzvotai tishmeru v'asitem otam v'natati gishmechem bitam v'natna haaretz yevula v'etasadeh yitein piryo v'hisig lachem dayishet batzir v'atzir yasig et zara v'achaltem lachmechem lasova v'shavtem lavetach be'artzechem.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam notah b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. We continue now at the top of page 748 for our sixth portion.
Yamod Shmuel ben Asher Shishi.
Baruch et Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch
Baruch Adonai Hamborach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. V'natati shalom ba'aretz u'shchavtem ein macharid v'hishbati chayara amin haaretz v'cherv lo tavor bi'artzchem urdaftem et oivechem v'naflu lifnechem lecharev v'radfu mikem chamisha mea mikem rivava yirdofu V'naflu oivechem lifnechem lecharev. Ufaniti aleichem ifreiti etchem v'yerbeiti etchem. V'akimoti et briti itchem.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'hayei olam atah betoheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Ya'amdu Asher ben Abraham v'Carmela bat Caleb Shvi'i.
Our seventh reading has us in the middle of page 748 with verse number 10.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorah Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher b'harbonu mikol ha'amim v'noasan lanu es Torato. Baruch Adonai nosein haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. V'achaltem yashan noshan v'yashan im niglashet tziyu. V'ratati mishkani b'tochechem lo tigal nafshitchem. V'hilchalachtihi b'tochechem v'yiti lachem le'elohim v'yatem tiyu li le'am. Ani Adonai Elohechem asher etzeti etchem eretz Mitzrayim miyot lahem avadim v'eshbor mototuchem ba'olechetchem komemiyut.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam
Asher nasan lanu Torah emes v'hayei olam notah b'sohenu. Baruch atah Adonai nosein haTorah.
Amen. The last aliyah for today is actually a section of the Torah known as the Tochacha. It's actually a section filled with curses. So what we do is usually Adam takes this aliyah, takes one for the team, and we actually read the Torah in a very, very quiet voice as to not to share these horrible curses with the rest of the world.
And then as we're doing that, we'll also begin passing out the candy, so we'll have that ready for the reading of the concluding reading.
Yamon
Adam David, Ben Ze'ev Yosef, Bisharona,
Acharon.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
V'im lo tishmeu li v'lo tasu kol mitzvot ha'ela v'mivchotai timasu v'mishvotai tidal nafshechem v'lo tiaso kol mitzvotai lefarchem epriti afani esezol lachem v'kadati alechem be'la eshachefet bi'ad hakadachat v'chalot einayim divat nafesh v'ushratem la'rik zarachem v'chalu oiveichem naflu panai achem nigaftem v'pnei oiveichem radu b'achem sonechem naschem v'ein rodefechem v'imad ela lo tishmeu li v'asafti v'asra'echem Sheval Chatotechem, Shivarti et Gaonischem, Gunatati et Shmechem, Pamarzel Ertzchem, Pankusha, Pamarit Kokachem, Wogitain Artzchem, et Yula, Desa Aretz, Yilo Yitain, Kirio, Vitokuin Mikeri, Votovu Vishmoa Li, Yasakulechem, Maka Sheval Chatotechem, Vishlapti Bachem, Chayat HaSadem, Vishiklachem, Mikrita et Hemchem, Pinita et Chem, Spirashmil Dwarkechem, V'im Be'ela Loti Basru, Liv Alchemi Mikeri, Valti Apani, Imachem, Bekeri, Viketi etchem gamani, Sheval Chatotechem, Veveti alechem, Tarchem, Nochem et Nekach, Berit, V'nesaftem el Arechem, Shalti Dever Metochem, Nizatem, Yadoi Ve, Bishivri Lachem, Mate Lechem, Vafu, Eser Nashin, Lachnechem, Tenurecha, Vishivu, Lachnechem, Demishkach, Vachaltem Loti Shavu, Vachaltem Loti Spo, V'im Vizo, Loti Shmuli, Lachtemi, Bekeri, Valti, Machem, Machem, Sartelchem, Apani, Sheval, Chatotechem, Bechalti Besar, Benechem, Besar, Benotechem, Telchelu, Bishmarativa, Motechem, Yagreti, et Hamonechem, Yanatati, et Tigrechem, Alpi, Greki, Lechem, Lanavshi, Echem, Natati, Arichem, Karba, Bashimoti, et Shechem,
Cherev Rodef Ayin, Lo Tiel Lachem Timal Pnei Oivechem, Yivadatem Bagoyim Achala, Yivadatem Bagoyim Achala Etchem, Eretz Oivechem, Venishramem Bachem, Imaku Bagonam Yertzot Oivechem, Viaf Abonot Avotam Itam, Imaku, Yitvadu Eravonam, Yeravon, Avotam, Malam Asher Maluvi, Viaf Asher Ochui Vikari, Afania Elech, Imam, Vikari, Vitiotam, Eretz Oivechem, O Azi Kanalva Bam Harel, Yajirsu Eravonam. V'zacharti et briti Yaakov, v'af et briti Yitzchak, v'af et briti Avraham, eskor v'haaretz, eskor v'haaretz, ez mehem v'tiretz eshabtoteha, b'shama mehem, v'hem yirtzu et avonam, yanu v'yam mishpatai ma'asu, v'chukotai gala nafsham, v'af gamzot, b'yotam v'eretz oivehem, lo me'astim v'lo galtim l'chalotam, l'hafer briti, otama ki ani Adonai Elohechem, V'zacharti lahem berit rishonim asher etzeti otam eretz Mitzrayim le'enei hagoyim liot lahem le'elohim ani Adonai ele hachukim v'amishpatim b'hatorot asher natan Adonai beino uvein b'nei Yisrael b'har Sinai b'yad Moshe Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chaye olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
So the reason we ended with the louder voice was because aliyahs are not supposed to end on negative notes, so as it turned to a positive tone toward the end, we resumed the regular type of reading, and that brings us to the conclusion of the reading of Bechukotai for this morning, and we rise for the half Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'yamad divrach Yerutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon uv'yamechon uv'chayei techol beit Yisrael b'gala b'gala uv'izman kariv v'yimiru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach Le'olam le'om le'omaya Yitbarach Yitbarach v'yishtabach V'yipar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal Shemeda kudsha
B'richu
Li'ela min kol birchata v'shirata
Tushbechata v'nechamata Damiran be'alma v'yimiru. Amen. You may be seated. At this time, we'll be doing a special Misha Barak for those in our community that need healing. What I'm going to do this morning is stand on the bottom of the stairs over here in the center of the sanctuary. If you'd like to mention a name for a prayer for healing, I ask that we form a line in the center of the sanctuary, keeping in mind the social distancing from the person in front of you and behind you. So we'll do that at this time. Tamod, Abocher bat mitzvah, Asheret bat Asher v'chana Asheret, Maftir Chazak.
Our concluding reading this morning is also the concluding reading of the book of Leviticus, so we're actually going to rise as we turn to the bottom of page 756, the very last line.
Baruch Hanamrach L'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambara Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bahar Banu Mikol Hamim Natan Lanu Et Torato Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Bechol Ma'asar Bakar Basam Kol Asher Yavor Taha HaShabbat HaAsiri Yeh Kodesh L'Adonai Lo Yevaker Ein Tov L'Ra V'lo Yemirenu In Hamer Yemirenu V'Hayahu Utmrato Yeh Kodesh Lo Yigael Ele HaMitzvot Asher Tziva Adonai Et Moshe El Bnei Israel Behar
Sinai. Chazak Chazak v'nitchazek.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'hayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yamdu Machia Be'ag. Oh, sorry. Not yet.
Mishe Berak Avotenu Abraham Yitzhak v'Yaakov v'Imatenu Serivka Rachel v'Leah u'yivarek et Asheret bat Asher v'Chana Asheret shehi gam el mitzvot ve'alta hayom likvod hamakom v'likvod haTorah v'likvod haShabbat HaKadosh Baruch Hu yishmerecha v'chayecha v'chonen et liba liot shalem im Adonai Elohecha להגות בתורתו ולהביא רחב ולשמור מצוותיו להיות אמיצה למצוא את יהודה ולהיות אישה אוהבת ואהובה ונחייה היום ובכל יום לכן ולעזרך מבניך ובני קוראיך ולשלח ברכה והצלחה מכל מעשה ידיך יהי רצון שיזכו הוריך לגודלו לתורה לחופה ומעשים טובים ונאמר Amen.
May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless Olivia, who has been called to the Torah upon reaching the age of mitzvot with reverence for God, the Torah, and the Shabbat. May the Holy One protect and sustain her, helping Olivia to be wholehearted in her faith, to study Torah, to fulfill the mitzvot, and to walk in God's ways. May she have the strength to find her calling to be a person who is both loved and beloved. And may she find love and compassion today and every day in your eyes, O God, and in the eyes of all who see her. May her parents rear her to maturity, guiding her to a love of Torah, to the blessing of chuppah, and to a life of good deeds. And let us say, Amen.
Singmen tov, mazel tov, singmen tov, singmen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, singmen tov, singmen tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, singmen tov. Yehelanu, 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 ubechol Yisrael. Yehelanu, yehelanu, ubechol Yisrael. David melech Yisrael. v'kayam, David melech Yisrael, chai v'kayam, Mazel tov.
We remain standing for the raising and the binding of our Torah scroll, Yalmod Hagba v'Galila l'Sefer HaTorah.
V'zod HaTorah asher sam Moshe
Livnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai.
Moshe.
Let us please be seated.
You could have kept some of the candy.
Yeah.
Didn't have to turn it all in.
I told you a story, right, DJ? One Halloween, my kids went out trick-or-treating and they came back and they had a lot of candy from the temple. Somebody from the temple actually kept collecting the candy during the bar mitzvahs
Nice.
and just gave it away for trick-or-treating in Halloween.
It's not a bad idea.
You know? It's like recycled candy. Very ecological. If you want to follow, you should follow the chanting of the Haftorah by Olivia. It's on page 762 when we have Behar and Behukotai combined with this Haftorah from the prophet Jeremiah. Page 762 of our Humashim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar v'im tovim v'ratzah v'divreihem hane'emorim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai haboher b'torah u'Moshe avdo v'Yisrael hamo v'yeh ha'emet b'tzedek. Adonai uvzi ma'uzi umnusi be'am Torah elecha goyim yavo'u me'afse aretz ve'amru ha'sheker nahalu avotenu hevel ve'im bam mo'il hayaselo Adam Elohim ve'hema lo Elohim lahen hinani modi'am v'apam hazo odiem et yadi v'et gvurati ve'yad'u kishmi Adonai chatat Yehuda ketuvah ve'e barzel v'tzipuren shamir karsha haluach libam ulkarnot mizbehotehem kizkor b'nehem mizbehotam va'asherehem al yitranan al givaot hagvahot harari basadeh hel ha'ko'otrotecha labazetein bamotecha v'chatat v'chol givulecha v'shamata upa minahalata asher natati lach v'havatiha ve'oivecha ba'aretz asher lo yadata ki esh yatem ve'api adolam tukad ko amar Adonai arur hagever asher yita ba'adam v'sam ba'asar zera'o v'min Adonai yasur libo v'haya hir'ar bra'ava lo yir'eh ki avotov v'shachan karirim b'midbar eretz meleha v'lo teshev baruch hagever asher yita ba'adonai v'haya Adonai miftacho v'haya ke'etz shatu al ma'im v'ayuva yeshalach shrashav v'lo yir'eh ki yavocham v'haya alehu ra'anan u'bishnat batzoret lo yid'ag v'lo yamish ma'aso peri akov halev mikol v'anush hu mida'enu ani Adonai koker le'bochen klayot v'latei le'ish kidrahav kifri malalav kore dagar v'lo yalad ose osher v'lo mishpat v'chapti yamav yazbenu v'chrayto yenava kisei kavod maram merishon mekom mikdashenu mikveh Yisrael Adonai kol ozvecha yevoshu Visurai ba'aretz yihatevu ki azvu b'kor maim chaim ata'onai refeni Adonai be'rafeh hoshieni v'sheya ki tehilati ata Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sur kol ha'olamim tzadik b'chol hadorot ha'el ha'ne'eman ha'omer v'oseh hamdaber u'mkayem shekol devarav emet v'tzedek Ne'eman atahu Adonai Eloheinu v'ne'emanim devarecha v'davar echad mivarecha akor lo yashuv rekam ki el melech ne'eman rahaman atah Baruch atah Adonai ha'el ha'ne'eman v'chol devarav Rachem al Tion ki hi beit chayenu al uva nefesh toshia bimheira v'yamenu Baruch atah Adonai v'sameach Tion bevaneha Samcheinu Adonai Eloheinu be'eliyahu hanavi adveha u'malchut beit David mishechecha bimheira yavo v'yagel libenu Al kiso lo yeshev zar Lo yinchalu od acherim et chavodo Ki v'shem kodsheha nishbata lo Shelo yichbech ne'er le'olam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai Magen David Al haTorah va'al ha'avodah va'al ha'mi'im va'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh Shnatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu likdusha v'limnucha lechavod u'tif'aret Al hakol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim lach umbarhim otah yitbarashim pad befi kol kai tamid le'olam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat Shabbat Shalom. I am very honored to be standing on the bima this morning as a bat mitzvah. For me, having had the opportunity to learn our prayers, our traditions, and of course how to read the Torah, makes me very proud. I feel that learning all these contents has brought me closer to God, and for me, that is very important. Our prayer book has been around for thousands of years, and it has remained unchanged, except for the occasional revisions to make it a little more appropriate to the current times. It gives me a wonderful feeling to know that some of these prayers have also been recited by people like me in previous generations. Today I get to become part of that story that brings the Jewish people together across time and space. As a Jewish young woman, I now have the opportunity, the duty and responsibility of speaking on behalf of those that have been silenced. I will always stand up for my beliefs and on behalf of the Jewish people. Now that I can read Hebrew a bit better, I would like to continue learning the language and possibly become fluent one day. This knowledge has made me understand better the Jewish services, making me feel closer to my religion. Every girl that becomes a bat mitzvah in our temple needs to learn how to read from the Torah. It is not only a skill because the Torah has no vowels and no punctuation marks. It is also a way of really being able to touch the history of our people and the way in which we understand God. My mitzvah project is to donate to the ASPCA Foundation to help prevent the abuse of animals, treat their illnesses, and give them good homes. I chose this because I believe that animals are like family. We have to love them and care for them the same way we should care for those in need. In Judaism, we believe that all living beings are entitled to God's care and protection, and that means that we have to partner with God to make sure that no living being suffers, and that includes animals. This concept is called Tsar Ba'alei Hayim. This is the first mitzvah that I will get to observe in my life as a Jewish adult. I would like to thank a few people today. Without you, I wouldn't be standing up here. First, my dear mother. Thank you so much for giving me the support I need to complete this wonderful learning experience. Even though I've had a few bad days and a bit of self-doubt, I made it. I enjoy our long car rides every Sunday and Wednesday, and our long talks with you, always cheering me on and saying how proud you were of me. Thank you, Mom. I would also like to thank my father for helping me with my Hebrew studies. You were always an inspiration to me. And to my dear, dear brother, thank you. Even though you were tough on me, you kept me on my toes with my pronunciation and melodies of my Haftorah. Thank you to Grandma and Grandpa for helping me understand the Jewish way of living and for practicing the Jewish traditions with me. Thank you, my family from Brazil, for embracing Judaism and for always being by my side, even when you're so far away. Thank you, Zoom, for keeping us far but close. I would like to thank Adam for his infinite patience, kindness, and understanding during these long 9 months. Without you, I wouldn't have been able to even begin to identify the Hebrew letters, and that would have been a big problem today. Thank you, DJ, for helping me learn the prayers of Friday and Saturday services. Hopefully today I didn't prove you wrong when you called me a rock star. Thank you, Rabbi Goodman, for guiding my path as a Jewish young woman since I was 8 days old, when you first held me and gave me my Hebrew name. I would like to thank my teachers and good friends at Southern Highlands Preparatory School for your kindness and understanding when my stress levels were at their highest. Thank you, everyone. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Olivia. I'd like to call upon Anna and Oscar at this time.
Olivia.
Oscar, you can remove your mask. It's okay.
Oh, I can.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Is this better?
We want to make sure it's really you.
Your mom and I are so proud of you. You made us promise we wouldn't cry, so unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get through what I really wanted to say. But we love you very much. Your soul is deep. You are a sensitive young woman who can view into the souls of other people, particularly those that are downtrodden and in need. And I hope to use those skills in the future. I think your brother and I confirmed that you did the perfect job on your Haftorah. Is that correct? Yeah. And so he's also very proud of you. We love you so much, and we hope this is the beginning of a long and very happy Jewish life. Mazel tov.
My dear Olivia, today you become a young Jewish woman under the eyes of God. You have worked so hard these last couple months, and we are so proud of you. We admire your perseverance and your strength when dealing with obstacles. We admire your work ethic and your diligence. Even when you doubt yourself, you'll find a way to keep going. As you embark on your journey as a young adult, we hope that you continue to be the amazing person that you are. Loving, loyal, creative, funny, artistic, voice impersonator, and most of all, a kind soul. We love you more than words will ever be able to express. Mazel tov.
Mazel tov.
I just want to say one last thing. Today is also a very special day. You may have heard us talking about her a lot, but Grandma Laura, today is her yard site. And that means that there's 4 generations here to witness this wonderful event. And I think, she would be very proud of you. She'd probably be more proud of you than we are today if she were here. I think she is here, actually. And for that, we are grateful.
Oh, she is here, trust me. She wouldn't miss this.
So thank you.
Mazel
Thank
tov.
you all
Mazel
for
tov.
being a part of this with us today. It means a lot to us. And thank you to rabbis and DJ and Adam. We are very grateful to have all of you.
We're going to continue now with a prayer for our country on page 177. Let us please rise. Page 177, we're going to be joined via Zoom for a prayer for our country. We can't hear. Amen. We continue praying a prayer for the state of Israel on page 178. Avinu שבשמיים, צור ישראל וגואלו, ברך את מדינת ישראל, ראשית צמיחת גאולתנו. הגן עליה בעברת חסדך, ופרוס עליה סוכת שלומך. ושלח אורך ועמדך לראשיה, שריה ויועציה, ותקנם בעצה טובה מלפניך. חזק את ידי מגני ארץ קודשנו, והנחילם אלוהינו ישועה, ועטרת ניצחון תעטרם, ונתת שלום בארץ, ושמחת עולם ליושביה, ונאמר Amen. We continue with a prayer for peace. At the bottom of page 178, we're going to pray responsibly. Somebody's going to join us on Zoom, and then we'll respond.
The prayer for peace. May peace be the day when the bloodshed cease, when a great peace will embrace the whole world.
The nation will not threaten nation, and the human family will not again know war.
For all who live on earth shall realize we have not come into being to hate or to destroy.
We have
We have come into being to praise, to labor, and to love.
Compassionate God, bless the leaders of all nations with the power of compassion.
Feel the promise conveyed in Scripture. I will bring peace to the land, and I shall lie down, and no one shall terrify you.
I will rid the land of vicious beasts, and it shall not be ravaged by war.
Let justice and rightness flow like a mighty spring. Let God's peace fill the earth, and the water fill the sea. And let us say,
Amen. Let us please remain standing. We're going to continue now on page 180. We're announcing the new month, Birkat HaChodesh, on page 180. May it be your will, Adonai, our God and God of our ancestors, grant that this month bring us goodness and blessing and bestow on us a long life. A life that is peaceful, a life that is good, a life that is blessed, a life with proper sustenance, a life with physical vitality, a life conscious of heaven's demands and wary of sin, a life free of shame and reproach, a life of abundance and honor, a life of love of Torah, conscious of heaven's demands, a life in which the worthy desires of our hearts are fulfilled. Amen.
יהי רצון מלפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, שדרכך תשלנו את החודש הבא לטובה ולברכה. שדרכך תשלנו את החודש הבא לטובה ולברכה. ותיתן לנו חיים ארוכים, חיים של שלום, חיים של טובה, חיים של ברכה, חיים של פרנסה, חיים של חילוץ עצמות, חיים שיש בכם יראת שמיים ויראת חטא, חיים שאין בכם בושה וכלימה, חיים של אושר לכבוד, חיים שתבנו אהבת תורה ויראת שמיים, חיים שימלאו משאלות לבני לטובה, אמן סלה. מי שעשה ניסים, מי שעשה ניסים, ניסים לאבותינו. מי שעשה ניסים, מי שעשה ניסים, ניסים לאבותינו. וגל אותם מעבדו לחירות. הוא יגאל אותנו בקרוב וקבץ נדחנו מארבע כנפות הארץ. הברים כל ישראל ונאמר אמן. ראש חודש סיוון יהיה ביום רביעי הבא עלינו והכל ישראל לטובה.
The new month of Sivan will begin on Wednesday. May it hold blessing for us and for all the people of Israel. May the Holy One bless this new month for us and for the entire people and the house of Israel with life and peace.
Amen.
joy and gladness,
Amen.
deliverance and consolation, and let us say, Amen.
ירהד shehu HaKadosh Baruch Hu Aleinu ve'al kol amo beit Yisrael lechaim u'shalom
Amen.
lesason u'simcha
Amen.
lishuol nechama v'nomar Amen.
Let us please be seated. We continue praying Ashrei, page 181.
Ashrei yoshvei betecha, o yehalu hasela.
Ashrei ha'am shechachalo, Ashrei ha'am she'Adonai Elohav.
Tehillah leDavid, aramimcha Elohai hamelech, va'arvarcha shimcha le'olam va'ed.
Bechol yom avarchecha, v'lelal shimcha le'olam va'ed.
Gadol anai umhula me'od, ligdulato ein heker.
Dor ledor shabak ma'asecha, uvorotecha yagidu.
Hadar kavod hodecha, v'divrei nefleotecha asicha.
Ve'zuz nerotecha yomeru, udulatecha asabrena.
Zecher ravotu payabiu, v'tikatecha yeranenu.
Chanun v'rachum Adonai, erech apayim u'gdol chesed.
Tovanai lachol, v'rachama v'kol ma'asav.
ידוך אדוני כל מעשיך, וחסידיך יברכוך.
Kavod malchutecha yomeru, v'ratecha yedaberu.
Lehodia livnei hadam gevurotav, uvod hadar malchuto.
Malchutecha malchut ka'olamim, umshatecha bechol dor bador.
סומך אדוני לכל הנופלים, וזוקף לכל הכפופים.
Eine ko elecha yesaberu, ve'ata notem lehem et olam beito.
פותח את ידיך ומשפיע לכל הרצון.
Sadik anai bechol deracha, v'hasif bechol ma'asav.
קרוב אדוני לכל קוראיו, לכל אשר יקראוהו באמת.
Ritzon yiriav yasef, v'ashibtam yishma v'yoshiem.
שומר אדוני את כל אוהביו, ואת כל השעים ישמיד.
Tehilat anai yedaber pi, v'bereth bechol ma'asar, shem kachil elam va'ed.
ואנחנו נברך יה מעתה ועד עולם, הללויה. Page 183, סדר הכנסת התורה.
יהללו את שם אדוני, כי נשגב שמו לבדו. הודו על ארץ ושמיים, וירם קרן לעמו. תהילה לכל חסידיו, לבני ישראל עם קרובו. הללויה, הללויה. מזמור לדוד, הבו לאדוני בנעלים, הבו לאדוני כבוד ועוז, הבו לאדוני כבוד שמו, השתחוו לאדוני בהדרת קודש. כל אדוני על המים, אל הכבוד הרים אדוני על מים רבים. כל אדוני בכוח, כל אדוני בהדר, כל אדוני שובר ארזים, וישבר אדוני את ארזי הבנון, וירקידם כמו עגל, לבנון וציון כמו בן רמים. כל אדוני קוצב להבות אש, כל אדוני יכיל מדבר, יכיל אדוני מדבר קדש, כל אדוני יכולי היעלות, ויחשוף יערות, וכלו כולו מרכבות. אדוני למבול ישב, וישב אדוני מלך לעולם. אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. ובנוחו יאמר את העין היא
Let us please be seated.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Mazel Tov to the Goodman family. Mazel Tov to Olivia. It's great to have a simcha. It's great to be together. It's really great to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Friends, sometimes the news is actually worth reading. I've been trying to avoid the news recently because lately I press this awful red button on my phone that says Apple News, and it shows me just a horrible array of terrible headlines, all about the bad and yucky stuff happening all over the world. And sometimes I just don't have the heart to push the button and hear about more COVID stuff, about more politics. But a couple days ago, I read a headline and it made my day. And now I believe we have a true hero living amongst us. This was the headline. 4-year-old boy orders $2,600 worth of SpongeBob SquarePants popsicles on mother's Amazon account. And friends, the picture beneath the article is almost as good as the headline itself because it features our 4-year-old unsung hero biting into one of those SpongeBob SquarePants popsicles. And he has this huge smile on his face. However, according to the article I read, his mother was not smiling when she found out what he had done. Apparently, 4-year-old Noah Bryant of Brooklyn, New York, realized that if one simply goes to Amazon.com and finds something that they like, they could simply hit Buy Now. And that item would magically appear on the front doorstep in a day or two. Of course, Noah was unaware that his mother's credit card number was involved in the entire process. So instead of buying several popsicles, Noah must have thought, hey, let's go big or go home. And he ordered 918 SpongeBob-shaped popsicles, and he had them shipped to his aunt's house. Now, I have to give Noah credit. He did make sure that they were all on Amazon Prime, so he qualified for free shipping. Now, unfortunately for Noah and his family, because the popsicles were perishable, Amazon said that they were not refundable. Noah's mom is a current New York City University social work student, and she has 2 other kids, so she could not afford the 918 popsicle transaction on top of her other expenses. So to help out, fellow student Katie Schloss started a GoFundMe account to help raise money to lighten the load of the frozen treats. After only 24 hours, the full cost of the popsicles was raised, and by yesterday morning, when I checked up on this, the fundraiser had collected nearly $11,000 for the family. Noah's mom wrote in a statement on the page, "Thank you so much for the mind-blowing generosity and support. As a parent to a child living with ASD, that's autism spectrum disorder, all additional donations will go toward Noah's education and additional support. We cannot thank you enough." Now, perhaps the reason I love this story so much is because if I had done this as a kid, it would not have had a happy ending. My parents surely would have either killed me or made me get a job when I was 4 to pay them back for the popsicles. There certainly would not have been a picture of me smiling and biting into one. I think it also demonstrates the pure innocence and the beautiful logic that children have. So Noah knew he liked SpongeBob SquarePants, and Noah knew that he liked popsicles. And so he found SpongeBob popsicles. And he must have seen his mom or other adult order things on Amazon. They click a button, it shows up. So according to his 4-year-old logic, he had to order at least 918 of those SpongeBob popsicles. We have a double Torah portion this week, the first part of which is Parshat Behar. It talks about the Shemitah year, the year of Sabbath rest for agricultural workers and the land. And then we have Parshat Behukotai, which focuses on the rewards or punishments of breaking God's law. Now, the second part of Parshat Behukotai discusses this very antiquated ritual of vowing to offer God the value of a human being. And right after that, it lists a scale that contains various amounts of people's worth. Now, this is a very strange idea, especially to our modern ears, because it's something that obviously we would never do. Ibn Ezra, a Spanish medieval rabbi, comments on these verses, and he actually clarifies and tells us what's going on here. He says that people used to make vows in the temple, saying, if God will do the following for me, then I will redeem my life in accordance with its value, or the value of my son's life, or the value of the life of an animal, etc. Now, as strange or odd as this sounds, it actually happened pretty frequently in the ancient world. Hannah, for instance, Prophet Samuel's mother, she actually makes a vow like this and vows that if God would allow her to become pregnant, she would dedicate the child to the service of the temple. That is how we get Samuel being affiliated with the temple and the high priest Eli. Now, the reason I bring all of this up is because according to the Mishnah, a young child's vows were not considered binding. Because even the sages realize that children are impulsive and they don't have the decision-making skills or the wisdom to correctly do this yet. Hence the reason that Noah ordered 918 SpongeBob popsicles. The rabbis, in fact, do an experiment in the Mishnah to see what age children should be accountable for any vow that they would theoretically make. And they note that only after girls turn 12 or boys turn 13 did their vows and dedications stand as valid, because it was only then that they fully understood the full context of their vows. This is one of the reasons that later the age of bat and bar mitzvah would initially be 12 and 13. So Olivia, just know that now we all know that you are capable of making appropriate vows and decrees. And if you buy 918 SpongeBob popsicles with mom's credit card, there ain't going to be a GoFundMe page. You're going to have to get a job here at the temple with us. Vows are intended to be a holy and a sacred thing. Some of the lawyers in the congregation would wince if I told them that growing up in Texas, my father used to make deals with nothing but the integrity of an honest handshake. The whole point of marriage, as conceived, is the idea that you are committing yourself to another person forever. And almost every culture in the world has a part in the wedding ceremony where either or both parties make a public vow, betrothing them to the other. Vows are important. When a witness to a crime takes the stand, they oftentimes place their hand on a sacred religious text and swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Elected officials have a swearing-in ceremony, and they make a vow, a public vow, to uphold a governmental code or sometimes the Constitution. These vows that we make are supposedly important, but all too often we as human beings find a way to delegitimize our vows. Yes, while many people stand with their beloved at the altar or the chuppah and declare that they will love and be faithful to the other person forever, human beings have realized that the people don't always take this vow as seriously as they should, hence the reason that now about half of all marriages end in divorce. So sometimes, before the couple gets married, they sign a prenuptial agreement, which is another vow stating that if things go badly, they will not divide assets equally. Sometimes couples do not sign this, and when the marriage ends, it is no fun. Just ask our friend Mr. Bill Gates, who after 27 years of marriage is getting divorced from Melinda and now is going to have to split $146 billion with her. Ouch. Friends, I want to leave you with this thought today. The vows we declare, the promises that we make, the integrity of our words really matter. Whether we make them to others, whether we make them to God, or whether we even make them to ourselves, they have to matter. Our sages tell us that unless we can prove that we genuinely didn't understand the context of a vow that we made, we are required to fulfill that vow. I actually think that Amazon taught us all a lesson with Noah's popsicles. In a day and age in which basically everything is returnable, Amazon stood their ground and said, "Not this time," noting that they always stick to their customer service guidelines. What would the world be like if every time a family member or a friend or even a business person made a promise to us, they always kept their end of the deal, and we knew that they would? I tell our kids in the religious school all the time that we will never be able to control what other people do, but I tell them we have to be responsible for what we ourselves do. That's all we have control over. I want to challenge us to uphold the integrity of our vows, the integrity of our promises, and the integrity of our actions and words. And lastly, friends, if you're going to order popsicles off of Mom's Amazon account, I challenge you to order at least 918 of them. Shabbat Shalom.
I'm still thinking of the popsicles. I'm having a little bit of a hard time recuperating. Let us all please rise.
Do you think his friends also enjoyed the popsicles as well? Do you think he got to share them?
No, we live in a very selfish society. He kept them all for himself.
All for himself.
Let us please rise. We're going to continue with Chatzik Kaddish for Musaf, page 184.
Yikadal v'yikadash me'rabah. V'amadivrach yirteh ve'amlich malchuteh. V'chayachon uvyamechon uv'haydekol be'Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru.
Amen. Yesh me'rava mevorach. Ve'alam ule'olmeh al-maya.
Yitbarah v'yishtabah v'pa'ar v'raman v'yitnaseh. Yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalav. Shmed kudusha
Brichu.
Le'ela mikol birchata ushirata. Tushbehata v'nehamata. Damiram ve'lama v'imru.
Amen. We continue now praying the Amidah for Musaf, page 185. Let us please remain standing.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'soher Hasdei Avot, U'nevigo El Ibnei B'neihem, Le'ma'an Shemo ve'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Pokei U'Moshia U'Maged, Baruch atah Adonai, Maged Abraham U'Pokei Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Manai, Mechayei Metim Atah, Ra'aleh Hoshia, Mechakel Chayim Bechesed, Mechayei Metim B'Rahamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofei Kolim, Umatir Asurim, U'Mekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michal Mohav Ba'al Gevurot, U'Meidom Ela,
Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaMetim.
Naritzeha v'nakisheha Kesod Siach Sarfei Kodesh Hamakdishim Shimcha B'Kodesh Kakatu Haya Nevi'echa V'kara Zeh El Zeh Ve'amar Kadosh 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 Adonai Tzevaot Melech kol haaretz kevodo. Kevodo Malei Olam Bishartav Shoalim Zeh Lazeh Ayeh Mikol Kevodo Le'umatam Baruch Yameru Le'umatam Baruch Yameru Baruch Kevod Adonai Mimkomo. Mimkomo Uyife Berachamim Ve'yachod Am Yachadim Shemo Erev Avoker Bechol Yom Tamid Hamayim Bechava Shema Omrim Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Hu Eloheinu Hu Avinu Hu Malkeinu Hu Moshienu Hu Yashmienu Berachamav Sheini Le'enei Kol Kai Nai 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 Le'iyot lachem le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohehem U'divrei kodshecha katuv le'emor Elohai Tzion Ledor Vador Hallelujah Ledor Vador Ledor Vador Ledor Vador Nagid God Leha Ulneta Netahim Kedushatecha Nakdish V'shichacha Eloheinu Mepina lo yamush le'olam va'ed Ki hamelech gadol v'kadosh ata v'kadosh ata Ledor Vador Ledor Vador Ledor Vador Nagid God Leha Ulneta Netahim Kedushatecha Nakdish Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh.
If you finish praying the Amidah, you may be seated. We're going to continue praying Kaddish Shalem, page 203. Amen. Amen. Yesh meirav mevorach le'olam u'le'olmei almaya yitbarach. Brechu. Amen. 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 Bimroma uyase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Israel ve'imru amen. Ein Keloheinu is on page 204.
Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemushienu, Mi Keloheinu, Mi Kadonenu, Mi Kemalkeinu, Mi Kemushienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Emalkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shiktiru, Avotenu,
Lefanecha et ketoret asamim. At this time, I would like to call upon Bill Mason, Vice President of our Board of Directors, for presentations to Olivia.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us here today to the Goodman family. It's wonderful for you to allow us to be here with you. Beautiful exhibit, Olivia. First off, from the Women's League, we have a gift for you. It's a chumash, so that you can take it with you when you go to college. That way you keep it in your dorm room. Candlesticks as well. This is actually, a lot of kids do take this. You'll love this. So candlesticks. And here's your bat mitzvah certificate. Commemorating the events of today. You did a wonderful job. It was beautiful watching you up here. Okay, thank you very much.
I'd like to call upon Jed Paley from our USY chapter to make a presentation to Olivia on behalf of USY. Come on, Jed. Speaking to the mic, okay?
Congratulations, Olivia. You did a great job. We're all so proud of you, and we can all know that you put in so much effort for this. As for the temple and behalf on the USY, we present you with a gift that we will light week on week and hope you remember this special day. Mazel tov.
Thank you, Jed. Good job. All right. So now it's my turn. It's great. We met so many times on Zoom that it's finally, it's a wonderful feeling to see each other live once again. I wanted to share with you something, Olivia, that is actually very special. And you probably, I hope you remember, but I don't think you remember. But look, sometimes being a rabbi is not such an easy thing to do, because we have lovely people in the congregation. We have a couple of crazy people too. I mean, don't tell anybody I said that, but that happens to be the case. And among the wonderful people, once in a while there's one or two people who are super wonderful. And when you were little, when you were probably 5 or 6 years old, you used to come every Friday night and sit right there in the first row. You remember that? No. And after services, every Friday night after services, you would take your doll, you had a little doll that you brought with you all the time, and you would come over to me and give me a hug. You don't remember that either.
I remember giving you a hug.
You remember giving me a hug? Okay, that's good. Sam did it too. I don't want to make him feel left out, but you know, that to me was one of the most wonderful things ever in the 23 years that I've been here. And I will never forget it because it doesn't matter how bad my day was, you would come and give me a hug. Like my children, they didn't want to talk to me, but you gave me a hug. And that made my Shabbat. And it showed me that beyond the one or two crazy people that we deal with, there's wonderful people that really are a blessing to others. And you are a blessing to others, Olivia. I need you to know that. You made my life so much better so many times, and you don't even know it. And that's what causes you to be a blessing. In our Torah portion of Behar, Bechukotai today, we read all these blessings and all these curses. And to be able to understand what that really means, we need to understand first that we have a choice, which is what God says. If we perform the commandments, if we observe what we have to observe, everything will be a blessing. But if we misbehave, everything will be a curse. In other words, what happens to us is a consequence of our actions. So we also have a choice whether we ourselves become blessings or curses to others. I know that's not a conscious choice that people sometimes make, but it's a choice that really comes from deep within you. And I am so happy that the choice you've made every day is to be a blessing to others. And you know, this is easily said, Olivia, but it's true. I'm not just telling you that because you're becoming a bat mitzvah today and I want you to feel great. You know, I want you to feel great, of course, every day. But I mean it. I really do. And I want you to understand what it means for you to be able to touch other people's lives and be a blessing in their lives and bring light to their lives. Because doing that is not only a mitzvah, but it's also a privilege. It's something that not everyone gets to do. I have something special for you this morning, and it's a Kiddush cup. Now, you would say, what's special about a Kiddush cup? This Kiddush cup happens to be very special. First of all, I fill it with Jolly Ranchers. So, you know, one of the reasons why we throw candy at you is to make sure that you have a sweet beginning of your Jewish journey. And, well, I don't like those candy that much, so I gave you some Jolly Ranchers. I'm going to put them here for a second. This cup is not the usual Kiddush cup. Take a look inside. What do you see? There's a lot of Hebrew writing, right? Like how many words do you think there are?
Say 40, 50.
Well, there's more like, I would say it's going to be a multiple of 18, and it's probably over 72. Okay. You'll count them when you get home. But what are those words? What are those words? What is this cup? So this is a very special Kiddush cup because those words inside are words that come from the combination of the letters of the rivers, of the names of the rivers that flowed in the Garden of Eden. And in the Jewish mystical tradition, whoever drinks a wine from this cup during Kiddush, not only is his life blessed, but his life or her life turns into blessings for others. Because you see, when Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden, everything was easy, right? They had no worries, they had no problems. By the way, one more thing to tell you, you shouldn't worry about things that much, okay? Okay, perfect. I just want to get that off my chest, right? Because you're a warrior, right? So that's also one of the reasons I'm giving you this. Adam and Eve, they had no worries, they had no want for anything, everything was provided for them. And they had a chance to really live that life of blessing. But then, of course, they were not so outstanding, and they do a couple of wrong things, and you know the rest of the story. But as we believe that the water in those rivers had this incredible quality to turn people's lives into eternal blessings. And that's why I'm giving you this Kiddush cup today, because I believe that you are the embodiment of those blessings. And I hope that every time you drink from this, you actually feel the sweetness of all of the candy that we're putting in it. And that every time you share of your vision and your wisdom with others, Olivia, you share of the sweetness, of your kindness, and of your blessings with others. Now, one of the biggest pieces of advice that anyone ever gave me, believe it or not, was from the president of my congregation in Mexico, when I actually went to become a rabbi. So presidents of congregations sometimes have good advice, right, Oscar? Right, sometimes. And what he said to me, and his name was Oscar too, by the way, Oscar Gorochinsky. Liz will not let me lie. So Oscar took me out to dinner, and he said to me, Felipe, you're going to make a great rabbi, but you worry too much. You worry about things that haven't happened. Sounds familiar? Okay. My advice to you, and passing it on, don't worry about things that haven't happened, Olivia. You don't have to worry about anything in life. You are beautiful, you are smart, you are strong. You should have no worries. Oh yeah, don't look at me like, oh my God, they pay him to say that. No. I mean it, okay? Worry about the things that you need to worry when they get to you. The rest of the time, enjoy the blessings. Mazel tov to you, mazel tov to your family. I am so proud of you. And this is the plate that goes with the Kiddush cup. I didn't want to open it. May you always have the zchut, the privilege of drinking wine for Kiddush from this cup. And may your cup always overflow with wisdom and blessings. Mazel tov, Olivia. We all love you, and we wish you the best of all worlds, now and always. Let us please rise. יברכך אדוני וישמרך, יאר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונך, יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך שלום. May God guard you and keep you. May God cause his light to shine upon your life all the days of your life. May he take you up on his wings and grant you peace. Que Deus te proteja e te bendiga. That was good. Portuguese. May God always bless you, Olivia.
It was okay.
Let us please remain standing for Alain.
And if you run out of candy, Rabbi Hudson knows a 4-year-old who'll buy a ton of it off of Amazon for you.
Well, or a sponge of lollipops. Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit gedula le'otzeh b'reishit, shelo asanu k'yeh haratzon, v'lo samanu k'mishpechot hadama, shelo samchel kenu kachem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim
Modim, livnei melech, malchei
amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shem
Shunot
Shamayim
hashamayim v'yosed haaretz, u'moshe v'yikra b'shamayim.
Al ken nekem v'lechai Eloheinu v'luzecha. Kagatu b'toratecha, Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed, v'nemar, v'haya Adonai le'melech al kol haaretz, bayom ha'hu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo, echad.
Let us please be seated. Mourners and those serving your side. We're going to continue with the Mourners Kaddish on page 207.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, ve'almad divra kirutei ve'amlik malchutei, v'chayechon uvyamechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kari ve'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach le'alam ulalmei almaya. Yitbarak v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yidaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudusha b'richu. Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Please be seated. I'd like to call upon Bill Mason, Vice President of our Board of Directors, for the announcements.
I like that Felipe said it's not over till it's over.
Yeah.
So as I learned to do public speaking, Mazel Tov again to Olivia. It was a great job. And to the entire Goodman family, thank you very much. Join us for morning minyan at 9 o'clock tomorrow, as well on Monday through Friday at 7:30 a.m. here in the Steinberg Chapel. It's good to have in-person services again. Shavuot, light at the end of the tunnel, Visions of Hope, will begin at 8:30 on the evening of Sunday, May 16th. Rabbi Goodman and Rabbi Hodson will both teach Visions of Hope. The evening will conclude with a glow light concert outside hosted by DJ. The annual meeting will be on Monday, May 23rd at 3 p.m. The meeting is for current members and may be attended in person or online. Please check your programs and email for more information regarding our programming and upcoming events. Please join us in the large social hall for Kiddush following services. Today's Kiddush is sponsored by Anna and Oscar Goodman Jr. in honor of Olivia becoming a bat mitzvah. If you know of a temple member who is in the hospital, ill, or at home, or in a nursing home, please contact the temple office and let us know. And again, Shabbat Shalom and Mazel Tov.
We're going to conclude our service on page 211 with Adon Olam, followed by Kiddush.
Adon Olam
Asher malach b'terem kol
Yatzir Nivra Ding Dong Nasa Hefsako Smash
Azai melech shemo nikra Adon Olam
Ve'acharei kiklot hakol Levado yimlok nora Adon Olam Vehu haya Vehu hove Vehu yeh b'tipara Adon Olam Adon Olam
Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol Yatzir nivra v'het nasa v'heftza kol
Smasha Zamelech Shemo Nigra Adon Olam Vehu Echad Ve'en Sheni Laham Shelo Le'achbira Adon Olam Beli Reshit Beli Tachlit Velo Ha'oz Ve'ha'misra
Adon Olam
Adon Olam
asher malach b'terem kol Yatzir nivra
Ding Dong
v'het nasa v'heftza kol
Smasha Zamelech Shemo Nigra Adon Olam Vehu Eli
v'chai goali v'tzor chevli v'et tzara Adon Olam
Vehu Nisi Umanos Li
Menat kosi v'yom ekra Adon Olam
Adon Olam
asher malach
B'terem kol Tzir Ding Dong Nasa
v'heftza kol
Shazai Melech Shemo Nigra Adon Olam Be'ado Avkid Ruchi
v'et ishan ve'ayira Adon Olam
Ve'im Ruchi Gebihatzi Adonai Velo Ira Adon Olam Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem kol
Yatzir nivra
Ding Dong
v'het nasa v'heftza kol
Smash
Azai melech shemo nikra Adon Olam
V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובני בני ישראל אותי לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי
שבת
שבת
ויהי
ויהי
נפש
על כן ברך אדוני את יום השבת וקדשהו
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen. Chaim. It's the same as last night. You liked it.
See, you'll hold it. Hold the challah. That's okay. Have the challah. And cut just like you do this.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, המוציא לחם מן הארץ. אדוני עוז למו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום, שבת שלום ומבורך.